rap game didn't wake up ready for this kind of energy in 2026, but Doechii clearly planned for it months in advance. Because the way she kicked the door open at the very end of last year, that wasn't a single. That wasn't a teaser. That was a declaration of war. Before anybody could get comfortable, before the blogs even finished their year-end wrap-up posts, Doechii slid into the conversation on December 30th, 2025, like she already owned it. No warm-up, no easing in, just bars, intent, and pressure. And from the very first seconds, you could feel it. She wasn't asking for a seat anymore. She was flipping the whole table. This track isn't just music, it's positioning. It's Doechii letting the industry know exactly where she sees herself, and more importantly, where she sees everyone else as 2026 begins. Because she's no longer playing the rising star role. She's stepping into something heavier, something that comes with enemies, expectations, and consequences. The timing says everything. Dropping this record right before the calendar flipped felt strategic, like she wanted the energy waiting in the room when the new year started. And when she announced that this was leading directly into her upcoming album Girl Get Up, featuring none other than SZA, the message got even louder. That's not a casual feature. That's a power alignment. SZA doesn't jump on records for fun. She doesn't need visibility, she doesn't need momentum, and she definitely doesn't need to co-sign anyone unless she believes in the vision. So when her voice lands on this track, it immediately reframes Doechii's position in the game. This isn't an up-and-comer being given a shot. This is an artist being ushered into a lineage. And Doechii knows exactly what she's doing with that, because the moment the beat drops, you realize this isn't random either. She's rapping over a flip tied directly to hip-hop history, a sound that traces back to the Neptunes, to Clips, to Birdman, to grudges that shaped entire careers. That beat isn't just nostalgic, it's symbolic. It carries decades of tension, ego, power struggles, and dominance. And Doechii stepping onto it feels intentional in a way that's impossible to ignore. It's like she's saying, I understand the bloodline I'm stepping into, and I'm not scared of it. That's where things start getting uncomfortable for people. Because as the verse builds, it becomes clear she's not just addressing haters in a vague, inspirational way. She's naming energy. She's calling out laziness, entitlement, industry favoritism, and the way mediocrity has been protected while excellence gets questioned. And she does it without sounding bitter. She sounds focused, calm, certain. That's the scary part. She's rapping like someone who already sees the outcome and is just narrating the process. The bars move with structure, beginning, middle, end, like she sat with this and crafted it, not like she was reacting emotionally. Every line stacks on the last. Every idea connects. It feels rehearsed in the best way, disciplined, and then you catch it. She's not just talking to critics, she's talking to peers, male rappers, female rappers, streamers, bloggers, gatekeepers, anyone who's been loud without doing the work, anyone who got comfortable while the culture went stagnant. And she doesn't raise her voice once. She doesn't need to. The confidence is surgical. By the time the verse ends, it's clear Doechii isn't trying to be liked. She's trying to be undeniable. And that's when the bigger conversation starts bubbling up. Because once you aim that high, comparisons become inevitable. People start whispering names. They start asking questions they weren't asking before. They start wondering if this is just ambition or a challenge. And whether she meant to or not, the name that keeps hovering in the background is Nicki Minaj. Because Doechii isn't measuring herself against newcomers. She's measuring herself against legacies, against eras, against dominance. And when you rap over beats tied to historic beefs and align yourself with the TDE lineage, the same creative ecosystem that produced Kendrick Lamar, you're making a very specific statement. You're saying you want the crown, not the moment. And now that 2026 has officially begun, that kind of confidence doesn't go unanswered. Because while some artists are still playing defense, Doechii is already on offense, already plotting, already daring someone to respond. And the wildest part, this doesn't even feel like the climax yet. It feels like the opening move. And the reason this moment feels so volatile isn't just because Doechii rapped well. It's because of who feels touched by it. The reactions didn't take days. They didn't even take hours. They were immediate, defensive, and loud, which tells you everything you need to know. The people who felt comfortable before suddenly feel seen. The ones who coasted off aesthetics, viral moments, or industry favoritism. They heard themselves in those bars whether she named them or not. And that's when the tension shifted from admiration to fear, because nothing scares an industry like an artist who doesn't need permission. What Doechii does in this track, especially as it circulates now in early 2026, is force a conversation nobody wanted to have out loud. The conversation about effort, about talent gaps, about why certain artists get protected while others get questioned. And more specifically, why female rappers are constantly boxed into narrow lanes that don't exist for men. She doesn't beg to be excluded from that box, she flips it over. There's a moment in the second verse where her tone tightens. Not louder, not angrier, just sharper. And that's where people start realizing she's not just rapping at the industry, she's rapping through it. Calling out how narratives get built, how industry plant accusations magically appear when someone doesn't fit the expected image, how excellence gets treated like suspicion instead of celebration. And then she widens the scope, because this isn't just about rappers. It's about streamers, commentary culture, reaction channels, and the way mediocre opinions get amplified while real artistry gets picked apart. She doesn't name names, but the subtext is loud. Certain online personalities felt hit immediately, and you could tell by how fast they rushed to dismiss the song instead of actually engaging with it. That's always the tell. When people feel secure, they analyze. When they feel threatened, they mock. Doechii anticipated that. That's why the writing feels so deliberate. She's already 2 steps ahead, predicting the backlash before it happens. She knows people are going to call her arrogant. She knows they're going to say she's doing too much. And instead of softening her message to avoid that, she leans into it. Because she understands something a lot of artists don't. If you're going to be polarizing anyway, you might as well be honest. This is also where the female rap conversation gets uncomfortable, because Doechii doesn't actually diss other women directly. What she does is arguably more dangerous. She outgrows the comparison altogether. She talks about being placed into artificial rivalries, about how the culture loves pitting women against each other instead of allowing multiple forms of greatness to coexist. But at the same time, she makes it clear she's not here to be one of many. She's here to be the one. That's why the whispers around hierarchy started almost immediately. Fans didn't wait for blogs to frame it. They did it themselves. Threads popped up asking if this was the beginning of a real shift. If Doechii was positioning herself not just as a top female rapper, but as a top rapper, period. And that's where the war energy comes in. Because once you claim that kind of space, you automatically threaten anyone who's been sitting comfortably at the top, especially artists whose dominance has gone unquestioned for years, especially legacies built in a different era, under different rules, with fan bases that treat critique like blasphemy. Doechii doesn't say a name, but the silence around it is loud. She raps like someone who understands that crowns aren't passed down politely. They're taken. And if you're going to take one, you can't flinch at the noise that comes after. What really pushes this moment over the edge is the way she closes the track. The bars aren't celebratory, they're prophetic. She talks about years of grind, cold seasons, being overlooked, being hungry, not metaphorically, but literally. And then she pivots into where she is now, making it clear this didn't happen overnight, and it definitely didn't happen by accident. When she references cosigns, lineage, and elevation, it doesn't sound like bragging. It sounds like documentation, like she's archiving her rise in real time, daring anyone to deny it later. And the industry hates that, because narratives are easier to control when artists wait their turn. Doechii didn't wait. Now, as this track continues to circulate, something else is happening beneath the surface. Other artists are being asked questions they weren't ready for. Fans are revisiting old assumptions. And suddenly, the idea that female rap has room for only one dominant figure starts to feel outdated and threatening. This doesn't feel like a diss record. It feels like the first shot, not aimed randomly, but aimed upward. And the most telling sign that this really did start something? Nobody at the top has laughed it off yet. They've been quiet. And in hip-hop, silence after a challenge is never accidental. It's calculation. And what happens next is where this stops feeling like a moment and starts feeling like a shift. Because when the industry goes quiet after a record like this, it's not because they don't hear it. It's because they're deciding how to respond, or whether responding at all might actually make things worse. Doechii didn't just rap well. She forced people into positions they didn't want to stand in publicly. Veterans feel challenged, new artists feel exposed, and the middle of the field, the ones surviving off vibes, trends, and low-risk records, suddenly realize the bar just moved up. The scariest part is that Doechii isn't doing this from a place of chaos. She's calm, she's structured, she's strategic. Everything about this rollout, the timing, the beat choice, the feature, the subject matter, feels planned, not reactive. not emotional, planned. That's why people are already bracing for what Girl Get Up might do. Because if this track is the prelude, the album isn't going to be about proving she belongs. It's going to be about deciding who else does. And that's when careers start to wobble. Not because someone got dissed, but because someone got outpaced. You can hear it in the way fans are talking now. The conversation isn't, is Doechii good? That question is gone. The conversation is, who's actually willing to rap at this level consistently? And once that question enters the room, excuses stop working. Longevity gets tested. Pen games get scrutinized. Personas get stripped. And yes, the elephant in the room is still there. Because the closer Doechii inches toward that top spot, the harder it becomes to ignore the generational tension that's building. Not just between artists, but between eras. Between fan bases that grew up defending dominance and listeners who are hungry for something new, fearless, and uncompromising. This doesn't feel like a random spark. It feels like the beginning of a longer conflict that won't be settled by tweets or sneak disses. If someone responds, they'll have to respond with music, with substance, with intention. And not everybody at the top is built for that anymore. That's the real pressure Doechii applied here. She didn't insult anyone's past. She questioned their present. And in hip-hop, that's the most dangerous thing you can do. What makes this moment even heavier is how unapologetic she is about wanting more. She's not asking to be protected. She's not trying to be palatable. She's not shrinking her ambition to make the room comfortable. She's saying, I'm here to win. And if that makes you nervous, that's your problem. That kind of confidence rewrites narratives. Because now, every move she makes will be watched differently. Every release will be measured differently. And every artist who shares her space will have to decide whether they're competing or just coexisting. The rap game hasn't felt this tense in a while. Not because of drama, but because of expectation. Doechii didn't start a war by throwing a punch. She started it by raising the standard. And once the standard goes up, there's no going back. Only people who can keep up and people who get left behind. If you're rocking with this breakdown, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe, and there will be many more.